What's up, Vanguardians? Welcome back to the show. We're live here today on a Wednesday afternoon in Kansas City. Another beautiful day out, despite it being December. But yeah, what's up, bro?
Yeah, I'm getting more and more alarmed by this shit. I was looking at the forecast for next week. So for people who don't know anything about geography or the weather, in the Midwest, it gets cold around this time. And typically it snows like a lot, like enough that it aggravates you, that you have to scrape ice off of your car. You're like hating life. You're like, why can I not afford to live in California where it's sunny? And now it feels like we're in fucking California in the dead of winter. I was looking at the forecast next week, Evan. I'm sorry, we're talking like old Midwestern men about the weather. But next week, it's going to be like 73 in the middle of December, like a week before Christmas. Like that is unheard of. Yeah, and I'm sorry we were late, guys. We were running back from getting everything ready. But we're here now, and that's what counts.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in today. Got a great show for you guys today. Got some juicy shit to go over. An interesting take from Miss Kim Iversen over at The Hill that I'm excited to unpack. Also, another good segment from The Hill with Briahna Joy Gray that I want to talk about. So it's going to be a Hill-centric day. We're also welcoming a few friends of the show later on in the hour to talk about the Indie News Network. So super excited about that as well. But yeah, big shout out to the patrons. As always, we like to start our shows and end them by shouting out our patron community. So huge, big shout out to our patrons. Thank you so much for the support. It really does help keep the show going. And that link is in the description if you want to join our patron community. Obviously, one of the benefits is being on the shout out board at the beginning and end of every live stream, but there's also some other cool benefits, one of which is going to be our exclusive call-in hangout session, monthly call-in hangout session that we're going to be rolling out later this month. So super, super excited about that. But yeah, a lot of good stuff going on. Really appreciate the support, everybody. And yeah, just thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe.
Oh.
But yeah, welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really excited to talk about what the Hill is going on over at Rising. So that'll be good stuff for the day. But yeah, also super paranoid about this lack of snow, lack of winter that we're getting, even though a couple of people in this chat have expressed the fact that it is nice for people who have vehicle problems to not have to battle with all the fucking snow. I definitely hear you. I'm not much of a snow fan myself, but it is just concerning given the fact that this is supposed to be like a 20 degrees, everything's chilly outside. We're drinking hot chocolate. Like in Kansas City, it's usually snowed by Thanksgiving. It feels like most years, like it snowed on Halloween a couple years ago. Like this is irregular, guys. So anyway.
Yeah, but then I can't exactly say I'm not enjoying it either because, yeah, I fucking hate the snow, hate the cold. So, yeah, not really terribly upset, although, yeah, definitely a little disconcerting, possibly. But, yeah, do you want to start with this Kim Iversen Hill segment that has everyone seemingly up in arms about it? I haven't really been following. Can you mute yourself? Oh, yeah. But, yeah, I haven't really been following this whole school shooter saga that's playing out with this kid who, shot up the school with his parents' gun, and now, they're going to jail, and they have a lawyer, and he has all this stuff's going on. I haven't, been paying a ton of attention to it. It's kind of all going on in the peripheries. I should probably, do a deep dive. But I guess Kim Iversen put out a segment on this addressing what a lot of people have been talking about, which is the fact that this school shooter, this 15-year-old, this news articles, particularly the ones by the U.S. Sun, basically just posted like, kid pictures, like pictures of him as like a 7-year-old, this like chubby white 7-year-old kid. Look how adorable he is. School shooter underneath. So a lot of people have, been making the obvious points that if this was a black kid or a Muslim or something like that, he probably wouldn't receive that treatment. They'd probably, find the scariest possible photos of him and be like, he smoked weed 5 years ago, or, cannabis was in his system, so therefore he deserves to die, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen that, playbook a million times in the media. But anyway, Kim Iversen, needless to say, had a different, unexpected take from what you might have thought. And like I said, it has the internet up in arms. Also, thank you for the super chat, Kimberly Davis. Really appreciate that. Dore just went for Kyle's jugular. Pretty funny. Yeah, if Jimmy Dore posts a segment on his channel of that, then I'm definitely down to react to it. I don't think it's been posted yet, though. Although, yeah, we'll definitely bring you guys the news of that when we can find the clip. But thank you for the super chat, Kimberly, and for alerting us. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, as far as this Michigan shooter kid goes, I've actually, for whatever reason, I've been following this rather closely. Well, because it also, for me, it started with exactly what we're going to talk about today, just being absolutely perturbed and just done, finished. Like, okay, like one, you see, oh, some kid shot up his school and, 4 people died. And any American's reaction is, oh, okay, well, it was only 4, I guess that's, not the biggest tragedy of the year, which is like a horrible reaction to the death of literal children being taken by the fact that firearms are so easy to obtain and that any of the security measures that we've taken are completely failed in protecting our children. We see, multiple school shootings every single fucking year. And anyway, then this kid comes up and I'm like not paying much attention to it. And I see the photos that they're taking. And honestly, it looks like a it could have been like a photo of me when I was 5 years old. Like, it's just like some chubby fucking white kid that's like, forced to pray. And fucking, like, it's literally, that's what you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to be like, oh, wow, this kid's just like me. And for me, that was the totally rational thing. They were trying to humanize this kid. They were trying to take that angle, which is the exact opposite reading that Kim Iversen had. So let's go ahead and let her say her piece. But I do want to talk more about that.
Right. And as for the substance of the story itself, I know that some people have been debating about the parents themselves being charged. I 100% think it's legitimate to charge the parents. If you commit a shooting of any sort and you're using your parents' gun, which they failed to properly, lock away from you, then 100% they should be liable, at least in some sense, in my opinion. If you're going to own a gun, then part of that should be that you are practicing real gun safety. And of course, that includes locking it far the fuck away if you have a child in your house, especially one that apparently was like drawing, sadistic shit in his classroom that they
brought bullets to school.
Yeah. Like, come on, man. The warning signs were obviously there. Perhaps you could have, I don't know, put your gun the fuck away. Anyway, let's take a look at Kim Iversen's tweet here, or sorry, her segment, and see if all this outrage is warranted. Let's check it out. Let me pull this up real quick.
Also, the caption on this tweet is gold.
Look at the photos of Ethan Crumbley people on social media and some media outlets are using. He's now 15, and yet they chose this angelic looking photo from about when he was 10. What is the purpose of this when there are several other photos like his mugshot that could have been shown instead? This same sort of tactic is used in reverse against Black perpetrators and even victims. Rather than use their school photo of them smiling and looking like good kids, they use the meanest looking, most aggressive photo they can find on social media to portray them as villains. They attempt to portray them as people who either obviously would commit the heinous crime they did or victims who deserved it. They do this to placate a certain bias and mindset that the audience already holds, and the same looks to be happening in this case. Showing Crumbley as this innocent-looking angelic white kid is intended to stoke fear and support a narrative that white people, no matter how nice they look, are domestic terrorists who we should all be afraid of. Look at the photos of Ethan Crumbley people on social media and some media outlets are using. He's now 15, and yet they chose this angelic-looking photo from about when he was 10. What is the purpose of this when there are several other photos like his mugshot that could have been shown instead? This same sort of tactic is used in reverse against Black perpetrators and even victims. Rather than use their school photo of them smiling and looking like good kids, they use the meanest looking, most aggressive.
I think that's the clip.
Either way.
Did it start over? I felt like she already said that exact thing.
I don't think so.
They attempt to portray them as people who either obviously would commit the heinous crime they did or victims who deserved it. They do this to placate a certain bias and mindset that the audience already holds, and the same looks to be happening in this case. Showing Crumbley as this innocent-looking angelic white kid is...
Yeah, they did already play this. That's weird. It loops funny. Gavin on the ball at the first take, me fucking it up and making us listen to it one more time. But yeah, no, isn't that just fucking... Yeah. Yes, guys, the clip played twice. Thanks, RJ.
Yeah. Anyway, as someone noted, yes, as I think Radical Left Agenda noted, it starts off so well. At first you're like, yeah, you're right on, Kim, and then she takes that weird turn and is like, the media is trying to make everyone think that white men are, fearful or need to be feared or whatever. And I'm just like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, I am a white person, a white straight man, whatever you want to say. I never ever feel like the media is painting me as some sort of like monster or some sort of predator or whatever. That's just ridiculous to say, and especially as we know, the media has employed the contrary tactic, which is to make people of color, people from marginalized communities, people that practice Islam, etc., seem like the villain, seem like the bad guys and the people you need to fear. I think this is just ridiculous to like flip this on its head now and be like, oh, the anti-white bias. It reminds me of like the men rights activists. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? Like, obviously the reason they used the baby picture here was to make him look more innocent. So what was your take, Zach?
Well, that's exactly right. And I do think that there's this weird, kind of thing that's getting steam on the internet, kind of in the weird way how like the men's right things kind of got steam on the internet, where it was like where like right-wing talking points and really like just gross right-wing politics have like kind of festered into like these weird like battleground left conversations where it's like, are white people actually being replaced? And it's like, no, you fucking idiot. Like, this is an absolutely absurd place to talk, like to start. Like, let's just look at all of the structural let's talk about all the structural power in this country, right? We're on the left. We know how corporate power works. Well, we also need to understand how like racial power works in this country if we're gonna, effectively combat that and achieve liberty, justice for all of us and our comrades and all that kind of shit. And to like play into this like stupid ass, Fox News talking point that like, oh no, now the media is trying to scaremonger and like all white men are potentially like, oppressors or, disturbing massacrists and terrorists and all this kind of stuff. It's just so stupid. It's almost like comical, but it's not, because it seems to actually be gaining traction. But even if, there is somebody that's sitting in the audience that's like, well, I might be sympathetic to that, just go ahead and take a look at like the 1980s and how every single fucking night, all you would fucking see every single night after night on the news were the most like, worst possible scenario photos of black men that were supposed to make them look menacing as all hell, strip them of any humanity, make them look barbaric, dehumanize them, all this kind of shit, right? That's what you were constantly being fed night after night after night after night for decades. And that's on top of an entire racial system that's meant to persecute you and, subjugate you on top of all of that. Like, when that starts happening to white men, then we'll have a serious conversation to be having about this. But until then, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's a crappy newspaper playing into an old trope that we've seen time and time and time again, where they try and use the best possible looking version of a white criminal in order to somehow make their crime seem less severe, humanize them, do the exact opposite of the way that they treat, men of color, women of color, etc.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And as you can see here, this definitely drew some ire, some ridicule on Twitter, including from none other than the Young Turks themselves. Here's the Anarch-Asperience and what the fuck, John Iadarola, how. And you guys know, if you watch the Vanguard, that we're no fans of TYT. For the most part, I think that they're pretty pathetic at this point. But I can't lie that I had pretty much the same reaction here as Anna. And this leads us to the next tweet from Kim Iversen, where she says, liberal outlets like TYT and MSNBC have spent the better part of the past 5 years telling people Christian white men are our nation's biggest threat. Yet people like Keith Olbermann and Anarch-Asperience can't understand my conclusion on this. And again, we critique TYT and MSNBC probably more than anything else here at the Vanguard. We're also, fervent critics of them. But of all things to criticize them on, especially TYT, I just think this is laughable, especially because, like, the reason why people, especially on the left, criticize Christian white men, it's because our entire political establishment is made up of Christian white men. They're the people that are in charge right now, and they're the people that, for the most part, are fucking us over as a country. And yeah, as far as Christianity goes, yeah, a lot of the most regressive aspects of current American politics are based from a Christian tradition. Why do you think we're having this, battle over abortion rights? You know what I'm saying? So yes, Christian white men happen to be the ones in charge 99%. So if you're an anti-establishment network, as TYT purports to be, and once was, then yeah, obviously Christian white men are going to be one of the main groups of people that are criticized, not because they're white or whatever, just because they happen to be in charge. Like I said, they are the establishment. So yeah, if people on the left are criticizing the establishment, yeah, that's mostly Christian white men. I don't really know how else to put that. Again, not that TYT or MSNBC are at all paragons of good virtuous reporting, but of all things to criticize them for, I just can't help but think this is kind of dumb. And honestly, I've said in the past, I think Kim Iversen's an honest actor. I don't think she's like a right-wing shill necessarily or anything like that. I think she's coming from a good place. I just think she's an independent thinker that happens to have some bad takes, as we all do. But this one was, particularly cringeworthy. And I think that she should have just owned up to it instead of like doubling down and, going after all these people here. She says, I'm loving how triggered establishment progressives are over my Michigan shooter segment. I have zero ideas why that was so incendiary to them. Must have hit a sore spot. And then she tags like the Humanist Report, but completely ignoring that she's the establishment, media figure. She's the one that works for the Hill. So it's not like she's some, like heterodox independent out here. Like, no, you work for the Hill. This was sanctioned by a giant corporation. So just calm down a little bit. People are just like, making fun of you, disagreeing with you a little bit.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Can we throw the tweet back up again? Because the hypocrisy here is so palpable, because so many people who will, in this instance or a bunch of others, come to Kim Iversen's aid, they will relentlessly hound Brian Grimm all goddamn day and say that he's an establishment op because he works for The Intercept. And we've talked about all of the massive financial corruption behind the scenes at The Intercept. And, if your opinion is that you can't take anybody's opinion seriously that works for any kind of establishment media outlet, then that's a fine position to draw to. But you have to understand and then reckon that it's not just guys like Brian Grimm that are getting paid by establishment media outlets, right? Up until very recently, Glenn Greenwald was getting paid $500,000 a fucking year to work for The Intercept, and told us to our face, even after he left, that most of the corruption that he sees involved there is actually more to liberal circles. So it's just, I feel like people want to like make villains out of people who they don't like and use their finances or the way that they get paid to demonize them. But you also have to wait till the chickens come home to roost. And it's like, oh, you value Kim Iversen's perspective. You think she's speaking from the heart and that she's, providing this quote unquote anti-establishment view, when the Hill is a media conglomerate, guys. One of the biggest media, one of the guy that runs the Hill, he was a huge donor to Donald Trump. He's a huge Republican donor. I mean, those are the people that are clearing Kim Iversen's check. I mean, at least Piero Midyar is like not a fucking Trump guy, right? If we're playing that game, so to call somebody like the Humanist Report establishment, somebody who literally built his own show, who didn't go on the Hill when they called, if not that they called him, but they called Kim Iversen and she agreed right after Crystal and Sagar had left. And, we both agreed here on the show that they should have retired it and that everybody should have told the Hill to kick rocks because you don't, want to be a part of that, what I and Gavin viewed as scab culture, really, if we're being honest, replacing two people on their own fucking show after they were censored, after they were, forced to not have certain guests on that they want to have on, those kinds of things. I don't know. I just think that there's an ocean of hypocrisy surrounding all of that kind of thing. And I wanted to address that as well. So for Kim Iversen, who's getting checks cashed by the fucking Hill, to call somebody with a YouTube channel establishment progressive. And I don't agree with Mike on fucking a lot of things. He's gotten down like with, censorship and things that I just don't agree with, even though I like him. I think he's a nice guy that also speaks from the heart and, built his own fucking channel. And, he's always been really kind to us and all that kind of shit. It is what it is. I just think I wish that we could all just be honest with each other and instead of trying to be like partisan hacks of the new of the new progressivism of the new media, whatever it is, where everybody's just forming little like cliques. I wish we could all just be honest and analyze this instead of trying to fucking smear each other or pretend like we're the only one that's not establishment or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, no real beef with Kim Iversen. I think for the most part, she's an honest person, and I enjoy her commentary quite frequently. But yeah, we're not gonna hold back and bite our tongue when something this dumb is uttered on the Hills Rising. We're gonna talk about it. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny for sure. To move on to another clip though from the Hills Rising, this one is of Briahna Joy Gray on there. The whole debacle with Jin Psaki got brought up. Did you see the clip, Zach, where someone basically was like, well, why aren't we sending out rapid COVID tests for free to American families? And she's like, oh, you think we should be doing that? Like sarcastically. And it's like, yes, of course we should be doing that. Every other developed country is doing that. Why are we not making COVID tests accessible to the vast amount of people as possible? It's, one of the best protocols to have in place to prevent super spreader type, disasters. So this was crazy. And you said you saw that, Zach?
Oh yeah, I watched that.
Absolute insanity. Well, they had on Briahna Joy Gray to discuss it this morning. And I thought this was pretty interesting. We can take a look.
The same thing as paying for them, the government paying for them outright.
Money completely out of it. Do we have, as an economy, the capacity to produce tests and get them in people's hands? Briahna, what is it about the U.S. government that just gets in the way of that?
What it feels like in the case of so many things with COVID is an inability to disentangle oneself, or a lack of interest in disentangling oneself from the private insurance industry. So to talk about costs, the current plan is to have people's costs reimbursed through their insurance company, which, if everyone were insured, would be the same thing as paying for them, the government paying for them outright, right? What's the difference?
Yeah.
The difference is you have the middleman of this corporate entity. Moreover, you exclude everybody who isn't already insured, the most vulnerable members of our population already. That is what neoliberalism has wrought. That is this convoluted thinking that undermines our government's ability to do what it really should be handling best. And to your point, Ryan, there are these photographs famously of people in other countries in Europe using American tests that are marked at a lower rate than they're sold for here in our drugstores. I mean, I went with my mother before Thanksgiving to the CVS to buy a big stack of tests so that as family members trickled in over the course of the holiday week, we could all get tested. And I spent $150 out of pocket buying these tests just so our family dinner could sit down and eat a meal. And we are lucky enough to be able to afford that kind of expense. But people who flippantly roll their eyes at the idea of bulk buying these $7, $12 tests are really out of touch. And there's been a lot of talk about elitism thrown around by critics of liberals right now, but it's an open field here. Neither party is being sufficiently attentive to the fact that these are huge expenses put on a population that's still very much suffering from not only the economic consequences of the COVID pandemic, but which were in a crisis beforehand where half of Americans almost couldn't afford a $400 crisis. Now we're being asked to sign up for these crises day after day after day with little to no help from the government.
And also,
And the worst
COVID
part of it is,
just real quick, COVID is most dangerous to people 65 and over. We happen to have a single payer program for people 65 and over. What is it about Medicare that they just can't say, you know what? If you're covered by Medicare and you need a test, just hit us up. We got you.
Yeah.
I truly don't
the worst
know.
part, and the other thing about this is I test all the time. I've been testing all the time throughout the pandemic, and they cost $150, $100 to $150 to go to a center and get a test. And not all insurance covers it. My insurance will not cover it unless I think I have been exposed to COVID. So they have certain parameters as to when they'll actually cover the test. Now, luckily, they finally do have in the drugstores those tests that you're talking about, Briahna, and I also have a stack of them, and they're about $12.50 a test because you get two in the pack. They're like $25 or $24 a pack. And, in Europe, I have friends that are over there. They're saying that they're able to get access to their tests for $5, €5 a test, and they're everywhere. There's no lack of access. I went to my local drugstore. They were out.
But they have access to tests that are manufactured here that our government has not approved. My solution is so step one, we abolish the FDA, then we salt the earth where the building once was so that no regulatory entity can grow in its
Wait, pause it for 1 second.
And then there are going to be a lot.
I think that's maybe mostly supposed to be a joke, but I don't watch this enough. Can somebody in the chat please tell me if this Robby Soave guy is like an anarcho-capitalist libertarian? If so, it's a fucking joke that he's even on this on this show. That's such unserious politics.
Yeah, what the fuck? Anyway, let's hear. I'm excited to hear Brianna's response to this.
a lot of tests on the market, and then the price of the test will come down via competition. We don't have to do this cumbersome funding thing. They'll line the shelves with COVID tests.
We don't even need to do that.
Solved.
We have free vaccines. Why can't we have free tests? We know that you need to be tested in order to be safe. Like what you did, Briahna, that's what I always do. I always test. It doesn't matter a person's vaccination status. To me, you test because you could be spreading COVID and you've got 95-year-old grandparents or 65-year-old parents or whatever, and you want to make sure that they're staying safe. So if they really, truly had an investment in wanting to keep those hospitalizations down, they would be giving us access to these tests. And yet they double down on the vaccines. They're now paying for boosters for the vaccines, but they're not paying for tests. This doesn't make any sense.
Well, to Robby's point, the reality is that the FDA is America's regulatory system is one of the few that's respected simpatico for other countries in the world, right? So if something has FDA approval, other countries will forgo the approval process and go ahead and trust ours. That's very rare. And certainly we're not saying, oh, some drug got approved in some other country, and so we're going to respect that here. And I think there's a lot of integrity to our scientific institution to the FDA as a regulatory body. However, the problem here is political. The problem here is that the same exact tests that are being sold on American shelves are being sold in other countries in Europe for a fraction of the price because their government is subsidizing those costs. You have the exact same tests that are being sold in CVS's in America for $12, $20 that are being sold in Germany for $2, but being distributed also for free. And that is the key, distributed for free, because people understand in other places the benefit, to your point, about actually getting testing and that preventative prophylactic layer of this.
Right. And
there should be reciprocity, and everything approved. If it's approved in the UK, if it's approved in Germany, it should be approved here. We should just have put a warning label on it. The FDA has not approved this, but all of our peer countries are doing it, and it's fine. That if that satisfies our extremely risk-averse
I do have a question
bureaucracy.
Then. If all of our peer countries are doing it and it's fine, and that will satisfy our risk-averse bureaucracy, Robby, how about we just go full single payer free at the point of service healthcare system? I've seen that works. I've seen that works, or small fee at the point of service. I would negotiate down to, you know what I'm saying? With subsidies for people who can't afford that.
Right, and the big pharma has lobbied heavily against that. That was even a condition of the Affordable Care Act to get their support that we would continue to ban that. So they've built walls up around this. But in conclusion, in Vermont, the tests are free, no questions asked, no insurance needed. Briahna, thank you so much for joining us.
Ryan, sponsored by Big Vermont.
That's right. Big Green Mountain.
Anyway, I thought that was definitely an interesting exchange. Always love to see Briahna Joy Gray in general, but specifically on the Hill, dismantling some of the dumbass talking points of right-wingers like Robby, who's probably the dumbest person on the Hill's Rising by far. Everyone else on there, even when I disagree with him, I'm like, you have some good things to say. You have some interesting perspectives and some valid, opinions. This guy, very rarely do I ever hear anything smart come out of his mouth.
Yeah, I'd prefer if they bring Roger Federer or whatever his actual name was back on the show. Do you remember him?
Yeah, Colin Rogero, you mean?
Oh, they were both named? Oh, wait, no. For a second, I thought Robby's name was also Colin. I was like, are they both named Colin? No, okay, Colin Rogero. That's the guy. Yeah, he was always Federer in my mind.
Yeah, and then they had that other woman on who we roasted the living hell out of that one time. You remember her?
Gavin and I may or may not be at least like this much responsible for that woman getting axed. That's one of our best videos ever, and we just savaged the living daylight out of this crazy woman that tried to replace Crystal Ball on Rising.
Yeah, they brought in a One American News host or whatever, One American News Network, to host Rising for a couple days after the whole debacle with Crystal and Sagar went down. And yeah, she was like the worst of the worst. And yeah, you're right. We did a clip on it that is one of our top 3 viewed videos of all time. She never appeared again after that. And no, it wasn't Emily Rachowski. It was I forget her name, but she was like a One American News host. Yeah, I can. I'll find it really quick. I got it. Okay, cool. But yeah, that was absolutely hilarious. Go back and watch our video on that if you guys have a chance. That was pretty good stuff. Did you find it? Emily Miller. Yeah, exactly. Here, this was the video we did about it. The Hill's new Rising unwatchable with new hosts Emily Miller and Colin Rahero, and I don't even remember what they were talking about, but it was something like just unbelievably dumb. That was funny as shit.
And
anyway.
They literally had to cut her off in the middle of her talking because she was saying shit that just was 100% not true. And the guy was like, I don't think we should be saying that on air. I don't believe that's true. And she's like, it is. I can't remember. Watch the details if you want to remember. But that was one of my favorite clips that we've ever done. And apparently a lot of other people liked it too.
Yeah. And again, even she made Robby look somewhat intelligent. At least Robby can like properly articulaate himself.
You mean call it?
No, this Robby, the new guy, the one I was just calling the dumbest motherfucker I'd ever seen on Rising. The second dumbest motherfucker to ever grace the Rising stage. Anyway, not to be too mean, but goddamn, bro. Anyway, the show's, needless to say, only gone downhill since Crystal and Sagar left. You know, occasionally they'll have interesting segments. And you know, I do think Ryan Grimm for the most part is pretty sensible, despite the fact that a lot of other people hate his fucking guts. At least when it comes to just like electoral politics, you know, the inner workings of DC, you know, what's going on in the, you know, various Senate race or whatever. You know, he does a good job keeping his ear to the ground on that shit. I definitely don't agree with his like, you know, political ideology necessarily, but anyway, we do have some guests to introduce to the stream. At least one of them is here right now, Mr. Indie Left News. What's up, bro?
What's going on, guys? How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Holy crap. So much happening. What's going on with you? I hear you guys doing a whole lot of stories. You're doing this new call-in thing. That's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, super excited about
How's that going so far?
Pretty well. I think we're going to start later this month, actually, doing call-in episodes. And if anyone's not familiar with that, it's like an audio podcasting platform, kind of like Clubhouse, except for unlike Clubhouse, the audio actually stays around. It doesn't just disappear. It's not, you know, finite. So really excited about that. We're going to be doing weekly segments on there. So our viewers from here should definitely download the Call-In app if you have an iPhone. It's about to be rolled out on Android as well. But yeah, we're going to be doing that monthly basis. Super excited. We're also going to be doing a special patron hangout on Call-In. So really excited about the opportunities that's opening up. But how have you been, man?
Oh, dude, holy crap. We've been busy. We've been running Indie Left News and Leftist.today, publishing that twice a day. Doing the How Did We Miss That show with me and Reef on Saturday nights at midnight Eastern, having a good time with that. And then over the last couple of months, we put together a network, and I'm waiting for one of my partners and one of the members of the network to jump on with us. That's Rob Durden. And there are a bunch of us that have all come together, and I wanted to have him kind of talk about that. Also wanted to talk about a student debt boycott marathon that we're going to be doing on the network coming up on this Saturday. And then talk about some of the features that we have going on with this network, where we're not just having, okay, yeah, that's the student boycott marathon. Awesome. So you guys can all see that. And then we're also going to be having a Substack for the network. So not only are we a YouTube and video focused channel, but we're also going to be publishing and having writers as well. So we're going to have people that are creating content, and we'll have people that are commenting on content, and some people that are going to be doing both. So that's really exciting. And the network is called the Indie News Network. You see the little badge over my bird's back, INN. It's indienews.network is the URL. You can get there. And yeah, so that's kind of what the big thing that I've been working on there is helping organize and pull everybody together for the Indie News Network and all the different channels that we have. Gavin, I sent over a link to a Substack post at the indienewsnetwork.substack.com. You can find that. That was our very first post, and it introduced all the members of the group, and it has links to their Twitter handles and links to their YouTube channels, sorry. And yeah, you can see that there. That's meeting all the channels and writers and everybody that came together as part of this network. We're all independent. We're all uncorrupted. We're all recently started channels. We all have anti-imperialist, anti-corporate views to the social, definitely leaning to the left, but across a broad spectrum. Different viewpoints on a whole host of different issues. And that's one of the exciting things that I recognized here in contacting all these different content creators, I saw that we're all kind of up and coming, and we all have great messaging, and we all have a lot going on, but we're also all busy. And there's also something that we're all kind of missing, that a family aspect, a pooled resources aspect would help all of us lift each other. Plus, we could all amplify and educate and be guests on each other's shows and work as a team together to help spread messaging and counter all that establishment narrative that's out there going on, right?
Yeah, that's so badass, man. And we talk about even here on the Vanguard a lot, like, it would be awesome if all the different progressive channels kind of came together into like one network umbrella, and it could be like a big family, like you said. But you've actually put in the work to make that possible in some respect, and I think it's especially cool because you've kind of united a lot of these smaller creators, like you said, smaller channels that may just be trying to get off the ground, maybe are struggling to find attention or traction in this very oversaturated era, and also an era in which algorithms really determine what people watch more to an extent than what people actually want to watch. So I think it's super cool that you've been able to, like I said, bound these different channels and creators together. And that being said, it does look like Robert's here. Welcome to the Vanguard, Robert. How you doing?
What's up, fellas? Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time, Robert. Good to see you, man. And you host the Political Fight Club on YouTube, which is really dope. And do you want to talk a little bit about your involvement with the Indie News Network and what kind of opportunities that's bringing you and other creators?
Yeah, definitely. Basically, my involvement with the INN, it was brought on by Andy. He kind of asked me to do it a couple of months back, and it was a really, really awesome idea that I had kind of pontificated on my own show, which is basically I see like the future of indie media, but particularly lefty media, being very decentralized, where we kind of do what you guys do extremely well, which is like naturally the left kind of keeps an eye on itself, where we get a whole bunch of our information from other YouTubers who are doing the news, stuff like that. And that is very useful because it makes it so that there's kind of like a fail safe for if people try to go down the TYT lane where they try to take a bunch of money, that they inevitably have the whole rest of the left like pile on them, like dogpile them. So what I was thinking and what I really wanted Political Fight Club to be was basically like, I see the future of media and lefty news online being sort of like this decentralized network of small channels that promote each other, but also will call each other out on substance if there's a problem. And that is a failsafe towards like the corporatism or the, capitalism kind of infiltrating a lot of these channels. So like when I got into, when I started doing Political Fight Club, I lost my job back last year. And one of the things that broke my heart when Joe Biden took office is that I saw like my heroes like Kyle Kalinske, David Dole, Mike Figueredo all start to kind of, they didn't shift their narrative so much as they didn't really like start attacking the squad the same way that they did Obama, the same way that they did Trump, and the way that they, routinely did for the last, 6 or 7 years as I've been watching them. And that broke my heart in a way because it makes me feel like, are we ever going to outrun capitalism in developing our media? It feels like they can just, throw money at basically anyone they want, and then suddenly they'll change their mind on things like Julian Assange or Syria, OPCW, stuff like that. So what I try to do is get online and try to encourage as many people to do this as possible, keep an eye on each other, love each other. But if somebody has a bad take, don't be afraid to call them out. And that's what I like what you guys do. You're basically like, anybody that's calling you guys like TMZ, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You guys are basically like watchdogs who do the news in an entertaining way while keeping an eye on our fellow media creators so they don't go to the dark side. So that's kind of like what I do. I say horrible things about politicians and occasionally other YouTubers as well on my show to try to keep them in line. But for the most part, I just try to like do the news and, comment where I feel it is needed. And Indy really, he jived with that, man. He thought it was a good idea. So he reached out to me. And when he told me what the INN was about, which is a very decentralized, very independent network that we treat more like a family, I was all on board, man. So that's kind of a crash course on what got me started and why I do appreciate what you guys do very much, because it is absolutely needed in the era where it seems like people are selling out left and right, man.
Yeah, definitely. And, one of the, oh, sorry, I'm not sure if we can't hear you for losing the internet connection or not. I'm sorry.
I think we're fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, I definitely think that, definitely, your audience plays a role in how you take it. I've always been myself a little bit conflicted and trying to analyze, the situation that you're talking about with the Kyle Kalinskis and the people that I've definitely seen myself evolve away from. And I definitely hear what you're saying, that it's important to, hold those people accountable. To what extent it's, richness impacting them, I can't say for sure. But there's definitely a place for these new voices to come in to say, we have absolutely no concern about, any kind of legacy media taking us seriously. We have absolutely no concern with playing any of the games or following any of the rules that have been set by, the institutions that came before us. And I think that in doing that, it kind of frees us up to not take any of their baseline framework at all. And I think that maybe what's being distinguished from some of these new up and coming YouTubers, and, I believe, probably the wave that Gavin and I would consider ourselves being a part of, has broken away further from the, secular talk, humanist report style, in the sense that a lot of times they were still using their shows in the framework of legacy media and, responding to legacy media. And, that's a lot of how their politics were built and shaped and formed. I almost see ourselves as like the next generation, the next, wave of thinkers who, actually our framework in politics was shaped by new media. And, now we can continue to, push the ball forward. But yeah, and I think that, this new network and these, this moving the ball forward with all kinds of networks, whether that's Revolutionary Blackout or, Indie News Network or whatever, getting these collective groups of individuals together for, like you said, accountability, but also just, spreading the awareness. It's really hard to get over your first couple thousand subs. And one of the ways that I think FHL was able to, or Revolutionary Blackout Network now was able to do that, was by putting, a lot of their best minds to work on one YouTube channel where it's like, okay, you hit subscribe to that. Now you're getting fed everybody's material. That's a good way to get around the algorithmic kind of stuff like that, So anyway, that was a little bit, I'll get off the hill, but
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that, and also really appreciate what you said about our show, Robert. Really glad you enjoy it, and see that that's definitely what we're going for. So I'm glad that you feel that way. Big shout out also to Jose Alvarado for the $5. Thank you so much. Sup, Robert and Vanguardians, former MSNBC watcher here. Love what you guys are doing. Keep up the good work. And yeah, this is definitely my favorite kind of message to get, because a lot of people that do consume mainstream media exclusively, they don't necessarily realize what they're missing out on. They don't really realize the perspectives that they're not hearing. And the way that algorithms work, especially in our current era, really just reinforces those biases and just feeds you more of the mainstream narrative without ever allowing people to organically happen upon a show like one of ours. So that's very important to hear. Jose, thank you so much for the super chat and the comment. Really glad that you're a fan of our show now and no longer of MSNBC.
Yeah, hey Zach. Zach, I just wanted to hear, you mentioned Revolutionary Blackout. I did want to give a shout out to Compton J. It is his birthday today. They're doing a stream. Happy birthday, CJ. So did want to mention that. And I also set up a newsletter for them. So if you go to, it's my channel, I'll share a link to it. And there's like a daily newsletter that pulls together all their different channels and YouTube channels and Twitter and everything to summarize that for every day. And again, it's collaboration between these networks. What we're doing is partially inspired by RBN and by MCSC Network. I do want to give a shout out to them as well. They also are a collaborative network of independent channels, and they definitely inspired part of what we're doing here. And we plan to collaborate with all of these networks to pool resources, again, to do events like they did with the General Strike Summit, where we were all, I believe, participants. Again, we're going to be doing one this weekend with the Student Boycott Marathon that Blue Moon Red Wine, another one of our channels, Lucy, is organizing.
Talk about that a little bit. I'd love to hear more about the student marathon or the student debt marathon or whatever it's called.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited about that. That's still actually coming together at the last minute, but we have got a lineup of about 20 or 25 different speakers at this point. It's scheduled from at least from noon, and right now it's scheduled till 8. I don't know if we're going to have quite enough people to do 8 hours, plus 8 hours is a long stream, let me tell you. We're looking at probably doing somewhere between 6 and 8 hours, and we've got people telling stories about their student debt. We've got a panel talking about the economics of student debt. We've got a thing about targeted university and how debt affects minorities. We've got a panel on how debt affects women. We've got a panel on what political tactics we can use for cancellation or for for pushing for cancellation of student debt. We've got a panel questioning, is college really worth it? Having some college grads and non-college grads sitting on it. So we're going to bring in a variety of different conversations to this. Also, a lot of the people who are here are racked with student debt and are themselves going to be pledging to not pay their student debt going forward. They are going to be boycotting. So that is part of this marathon, is that the participants that do have student debt, I believe, are pledging to boycott.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a bunch of fucking awesome work over there, and we're super excited for the Independent News Network to kind of get off the ground. Super excited to kind of see what you guys are able to do. And obviously, we're over here at the Vanguard. We're really happy to support you guys in any way that we can. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to shout out, plug for everybody so that it can be made aware before we wrap our segment here?
Yeah, so on Saturday, I just wanted to mention that, again, it's there's going to be more than 20 people there. Just from the Indie News Network, we got Blue Moon Red Wine and Colin Radix Carter and Bets from Millennial Splaining, you probably know, and Kobe from the Pro Peace Report, Todd from Be the Change, and Tara Reid will actually be appearing at one of the panels, and Tatami from Tatami's Diary. We've also got some outside folks like Sabby Sabs from the Revolutionary Blackout Network will be appearing, as well as Angel Rivera. You may have seen him on Twitter and on YouTube. He's an up and comer. Also check out the indienewsnetwork.substack.com. We've got some writers over there. The Dissident, who he's not on YouTube. He doesn't do any appearances. All he does is write, and we're co-publishing. Elias Cepeda, also from Deconstructing Consent. I wanted to give a shout out to again, Tara Reid has her own Substack. Please go and subscribe to that. Support her. She's doing a new podcast, and hopefully she'll be coming on the Vanguard soon to talk with you guys about what's going on with Chris Cuomo and Andrew Cuomo, and of course her situation with the Democratic Party. And she's actually got a lawsuit going against Sally Albright at the moment. That also is pretty interesting, where she's trying to expose the trollbot farms and who actually paid for Correct the Record, et cetera, et cetera. Really interesting stuff there. All right, I do a ton of talking, so I'll shut up. I'll let Rob go out, and then we'll head out for today, and we'll come back soon. But thanks, everybody. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate that. And yeah, anything you wanted to mention, Robert, go for it.
I'm actually good. He hit everything. The one shout out I wanted to give was to Lucy at Blue Moon Red Wine. The amount of shit she has taken already for trying to set this thing up it seems like there's a pattern here. They did the same thing with the General Strike Summit, where there was just so much smearing and so much attacking. I want to give her a shout out. She's been super strong, and even I've even joked on my show that she retaliated first with a wonderful tweet going out there and being like, well, listen, guys, I didn't invite Jimmy Dore to this summit, so you guys are going to have to find another reason to shit on it. So I love that about her. Major shout out to Blue Moon Red Wine for putting this on. Mad props for going out there and not giving a damn, because they're going to come after her. You guys know it. They're going to come after her. So shout out to Blue Moon Red Wine.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that tweet too, and I thought it was hilarious as well. So yeah, definitely everyone make sure to go support that and check it out when it airs live, as well as subscribing to the Indie Left News on Substack and YouTube and everywhere else. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for coming on today.
Yeah, take care.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Dope. Yeah, that was a great little interview. Great. Always good to have friends of the show on to talk about a new media network, which, like I said, is really exciting. You know, we've had some of these smaller creators on our show at various points. And yeah, it's hard to make it out there just on your own. So it's cool to kind of see this umbrella of lefty shows come together, unite. So Yeah, thanks so much, Indy Left and Robert, for coming on today. Really appreciate that. Is there any other stories we had to cover today, Zach?
Yeah, just a few things that I wanted to kind of rapid fire talk about a little bit before we get out of here. One, I just wanted to come out and say, fuck Kellogg's. Got to excise that cereal from your diet permanently. So for anybody who doesn't know, there have been, I believe about 1,400 striking workers at Kellogg's. Yeah, the union represented 1,400 striking employees. Okay. And the Kellogg's decided to fire every single last one of them and permanently replace them with scabs. And this is extremely fucked. And also, it's fucked how the media is reporting on this. Kellogg to hire replacements for strikers who've rejected a proposed contract. The proposed contract was like a 3% raise. It wasn't even fucking keeping up with the rate of inflation, with the fucking living expenses that have been increased. That's like a non-raise at all. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh yeah, they didn't catch the boot or the spit that the establishment rained down on them and use it to shine their shoes. Nope. Instead, they decided basically to quit. Like, it's such bullshit framing. And I picked that because that's NPR. That's like probably one of the least offensive headlines about what's happening at Kellogg's. Most of it's just like Kellogg's hiring new workers after an unsuccessful strike. It's just like, well, that's really fucked up. And we should be talking about how these motherfuckers were forced to work 128 days in a row. I read one time, fucking insane. No days, 7 days a week, 14-hour days. Absolutely unsafe. This is the kind of shit that I felt like didn't happen anymore. Of course it does, but you feel like it doesn't because we want to have this aura of living in an evolved society. But instead, it's really just the new Gilded Age out there, and people are being massively exploited. And the corporations are able to just get away with firing 1,400 employees. And it's fucked because we always say, oh, they can't fire all of us. Turns out they fucking can, which is why we need to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely some disheartening news from this strike. We can take a little bit more of a look here at this NPR article. They said interest in the permanent replacement roles has been strong at all four plants as expected. We expect some of the new hires to start with the company very soon, which, is fucked up considering, yeah, of course there is, because there's so many people out here that are desperate. They are, very much so in need of money and resources. So yeah, they're going to be able to hire scabs essentially to replace these striking workers, but it's exploitation all around. It says the bakery, confectionery, tobacco workers, and grain mill International Union, the union representing 1,400 striking employees, said in a statement Tuesday that it will continue to provide full support with our striking Kellogg's members. But yeah, they walked out of the job on October 5th at 4 plants after the company and the union were unable to reach an agreement. According to the union, Kellogg's threatened to send jobs to Mexico. But in an October 12th presentation update, company officials denied that claim. And, if we actually had a pro-union president, as Joe Biden claimed to be, if he was actually Scranton Joe, then he would have gotten involved with this. He would have, threatened Kellogg's and said, hey, we're going to penalize you. We have to, incentivize as a government companies to not do exactly this, just threaten to outsource all their fucking jobs. I mean, even completely disregarding your opinion on unions and labor. I mean, just as a country, it's not great for us to be shipping jobs overseas for cheaper labor if companies don't get exactly their way. We need a strong workforce, at least, as our country is currently structured. So if Joe Biden was even a remotely pro-labor president, again, as he pretended to be, then no, he would have incentivized companies to keep their labor here and pay them properly, which overall would, increase quality of life in this country and increase the workforce in general. So yeah, this is absolute insanity, and it really just pisses me off how silent Joe Biden has been on all of this, all of these union struggles.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of par for the course for Joe Biden. I mean, it was just like, vague rhetoric about it during the primaries. And then once he kind of sealed the deal, it was, nothing. It was like, oh, he was far more interested in the, you have to vote for me, I'm not Trump strategy. He looked at that one guy and was like, vote for the other guy, then vote for Trump then. You know what I remember? He was not interested in courting that working class vote at all. And because Trump fucked up the pandemic so badly, and because we were following months and months and months and months of lockdowns that still worked, it would not work again. Never again. It was an accident of history that Joe Biden became our president 100%. But yeah, I mean, it is not surprising to me that all of the Democratic Party has completely abandoned the labor movement completely, and that's why nobody wants to vote for them, because they don't get any real tangible benefit from it. Whether you're a working class guy who wants to see your wages increase and your mortgage price, or your mortgage rate stay whatever the fuck people care about their mortgages for, that is fucking something that is no longer catered to you by the Democratic Party. And if you're a woman that cares about having sovereignty over her own uterus, that's not something that the Democratic Party can sell you anymore either. So people just stay the fuck home, man. And the people that do get out are the ones that are getting out there because they do not want you to have sovereignty over your uterus. And that's something that the Republican Party will deliver for you. They will deliver, X, Y, and Z culture issues if you ask for it. They won't deliver any economic issues, but that's nothing that the Democrats would give you either. So it's all fucked.
Yeah, 100%. And even the things that the Democrats have done in this administration that are, somewhat decent, nominally good, they don't do good PR for it. They don't actually message properly. Like, you take the withdrawal from Afghanistan, one of the only things you can actually give Joe Biden like some modicum of credit for. They completely fucked up the messaging. They completely fucked up the PR to the extent that the American public is now more pro-war than they were before the pullout, which used to be something that the American people strongly supported. Now, it's one of the biggest, most contentious issues and things that Joe Biden has done that arguably led to his approval rating beginning to decline. And again, it's because he couldn't properly message. And yeah, I know he came out there and did a couple like bullshit speeches that some people praised for some reason. But as far as actual intense, serious messaging, as far as, why this was necessary and why the media was, painting it in this way, there was none of that. It was completely pathetic as far as their messaging performance. And that's how it's been all the way along. That's also how it was with the Build Back Better Act, which had it been passed in its original, $3.5 trillion form, would have been something worth bragging about. Again, unfortunately, Joe Biden and his administration completely fucked up the messaging. People didn't even know what was in the bill. So when all the good stuff started getting stripped from it by the likes of Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, there was no public backlash or resistance to those people because people were like, I don't know what the hell's in this bill anyway. It doesn't really fucking matter because Joe Biden and his people haven't done a good job explaining how those policies would actually help you. Again, if the Republicans pass literally anything, even if it's some piece of shit tax cut, they spend years doing really serious messaging, convincing people that it's a middle class tax cut, that, they actually benefited from this when they didn't. And it works because messaging works. When people hear something 5, 10, 15, 20 times, it starts to stick in their head. But you never see that from the Biden administration. It's dog shit marketing. And they do a terrible job, sometimes even to their own detriment. Again, like we saw with Afghanistan. So, just a complete fucking failure. Shout out to a few super chats. Thank you so much, Christina, for the $9.99. Just wanted to say I'm glad I caught your live show. Well, thank you so much, Christina, and we're glad that you caught us live today too. Really glad to hear that you're enjoying the show, and thank you so much for the donation.
Appreciate it.
And also thank you to Das Bosch Fleisch for the $4.99. Really appreciate that, man. American TV shows made me believe I wouldn't be able to afford university. Turned out it's not a problem in Germany. Sorry to pour salt in the wound. It's all good, bro. And you're absolutely right. That is some very valid perspective and experience here in the United States. It's something that people have to either, come from a family that can afford to, or go into massive student loan debt to afford an education which won't even necessarily guarantee them a high paying job upon their graduation. So yeah, totally fucked up. Really appreciate the super chat as always, man.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the thing that a lot of times doesn't get mentioned is you talk about people with student debt, and you talk about, well, they went to college and now they're going to get a good high-paying job. It's like, okay, well, in America, you have to have 4 years of college, and there are also the 4 years that you're an adult, and a lot of shit goes down in the years between 18 and 22. And if you can't get your fucking ass bailed out every single fucking time by your parents or some other higher power, then you might actually have to stop going to college for a while because you're an adult and your life has fucking things coming up and you have to take care of yourself and all this kinds of whatever. So most people actually, I believe, it may be the slight minority, but it's pretty. It may. I don't fucking know. But a plurality. That's what the word I'm fucking looking for. A plurality of motherfuckers in this country who have massive amounts of student debt don't have a degree, so they're just working class, but even worse off because you have like a fucking massive amount of student debt that you have to pay off. Like I'm gonna have to pay like fucking $250 a month or whatever starting in January just to pay off my student loans. It's like another like fucking massive bill. And then you think about that and you're like, okay, well, that is definitely not commensurate to the fucking benefit that I got from my like 2.5 years of fucking college. But and I obviously never finished. So there's a lot of people in this world, and obviously, like, I'll be fine. I'll be able to make those payments, but a lot of people won't. And it's also super frustrating to know that Joe Biden could, at the fucking, flick of a wrist, just eliminate all of that financial struggle for, so many people, myself included.
Right. And obviously, we would give him credit for doing that if he did it. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It's one of the most obvious, easy things for a president to do, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it would massively boost his popularity. You don't think that would be a huge boon to his approval rating if he were to take that burden off so many people, essentially liberating generation economically in that sense? It's absolute insanity and, obviously indicative of the corruption which has infected the Democratic Party. But that being said, is there any other stories we had to cover today, Zach?
One more. The Ghislaine Maxwell trial, Maxwell trial tracker on Twitter. No, I know. Okay. Yeah, I'm just telling everybody. Okay. There was a large uproar about the fact that the Ghislaine Maxwell trial tracker was suspended, and many people were pointing to the fact that just beforehand, they tweeted out that evidence found during the Epstein raid included a tub full of hard drives, over 20,000 physical and digital photos, diamonds, cash, an Austrian passport listing a different name with a Saudi Arabian address. When the FBI seized these hard drives and the CDs, the storing images, they appeared with corresponding FBI evidence tags already present on them, suggesting FBI and law enforcement officials had already been in possession of, reviewed, and returned Epstein's hard drives, the ones that are showing his massive, sprawling crimes, with all of the, who knows the fuck that runs our entire world, every celebrity, fucking powerful person on earth. It looks like the FBI already knew about that shit. But fortunately, as Gavin said, they have been reinstated. So they're back up to, tell us about how fucked up our world is.
Yeah, luckily it did get reinstated, but I see some people in the chat mentioning that the Pelosi stock tracker account on Twitter has been suspended. It looks like RJ backs that up, so I'm going to take your guys' word for it. That's also fucked up. And just an example of now, I mean, I don't know if this is directly a result of, Twitter's new CEO being more censorious, more, censoriously minded than the previous Jack Dorsey. But, it's definitely indicative of the fact that Twitter at this point is basically just unapologetically, shamelessly censoring whoever the fuck it wants without any sort of actual standard or, rules or regulations that are really upheld in any serious way. They're just willy-nilly banning anyone that they want to. It's completely ridiculous. It's completely a violation of the First Amendment. Twitter should be regulated as a public utility, much like the other massive social media companies, including YouTube. They've monopolized their way into being the new public squares, and they should be treated as such. Anyway, just another example of the, corporations, the corporate media protecting the elite in this case, Nancy Pelosi and everyone who may be implicated in the Epstein case. So certainly interesting. And yeah, go follow the Ghislaine Maxwell trial tracker. Definitely a good account if you're interested in following the news from that trial, which is not being reported on predictably as much as it should be by the actual media. Of course, they're not doing their jobs. And, there's a great tweet. I wish I had it up in front of me, but it was basically showing the amount of money that had been donated to all of these news organizations, The Guardian, NPR, go down the list. Each and every one, massive, massive donations from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Guess who's potentially implicated in the Jeffrey Epstein case? Bill Gates. I wonder why we haven't heard anything about that from the mainstream news. I wonder what that could possibly be.
Yeah, I just saw a clip with Matt Taibbi. I think he may have actually been on the Joe Rogan podcast where he was talking about how Bill Gates had spent $390 million on media in the wake of the Epstein shit that came out. So, we love dragging Joe Rogan here, but I'm always down for a good salacious episode of the JRE. I'll definitely probably check out Matt Taibbi when he's on there. But yeah, I watched that brief clip, and I think it was something like $390 million is what Bill Gates said, which is chump change to him, but that's a fuck ton of money. And you're like, oh yeah, he was definitely trying to do some image cleanup after that really awkward interview. All the shit that came out, his divorce, which was very obviously linked to the fact that he was involved in this, all this kind of stuff. But anyway, that is more TMZ than maybe we'll get into today. But
this is important shit, bro.
Yeah.
But
319 million. Sorry.
Yeah, 319. Thanks, Indy Left, for the message. But yeah, total insanity. The fact that that's even allowed. And when I was like a kid listening to NPR in the car on the way to school, my dad would always listen to NPR. And they would be like, this is proudly sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I never really thought about that. And I never really figured it mattered. I mean, as a child, I never assumed that, Bill Gates was some malevolent force. And, I think some people that try to make him out to be like the super villain or whatever, kind of like the George Soros caricature is a little bit silly. But I do think it's absolutely insane now that, there is a very clear example of him being potentially implicated in a very serious case. It's like, yeah, of course the media is not going to cover it properly when he's paying them that much, when he's donating that much. It's just a clear-cut example of how corruption works, how money makes the people in the media stay silent. And, of course, we have that too with Jeff Bezos owning the Washington Post. Good luck seeing any critical reporting of Amazon's, refusal to pay taxes or its monopolization of the economy. Good luck seeing any reporting of that in the mainstream media, let alone the Washington Post. So, just examples, so many examples. But yeah, probably about the end of our show for today. And yeah, as Mad Marxist has said, yeah, the trial tracker is back up on Twitter. We mentioned that too. But yeah, good stream today. Really enjoyed chatting with friends of the show, Indie Left News, and also Robert from Political Fight Club. Looking forward to having them back on at some point in the future. Always love chatting. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in today. I guess we'll do our quick patron shout out as always. Thank you so much to everyone supporting the show on patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. If you enjoy our show and think we're producing valuable content, then feel free to hit up that link in the description, patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. It really does keep us going, keep us strong here at the Vanguard. And you can have your name on our shout out board if you pay just $5 a month. But yeah, huge shout out to everyone supporting the show. Like I said, that link is in the description, patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. We do start and end all of our live streams with a huge, sincere, special shout out to all of our patrons, really making the show possible. So yeah, thank you all, comrades. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And really appreciate that, guys. Everyone have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Yeah, peace out, guys.